This is Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player of all time. And this is Judit Polgar. Although she retired from the competitive world, Judit is still considered the best female chess player of all time. During the ongoing Candidate 2022 tournament, there was an extraordinary game took place between the King of Chess and the Queen of Chess in Madrid at Retiro Park. Judit started the match with e4 and Magnus c5, opting for the Sicilian defense. Judit followed up with knight to f3 and Magnus e6, making this a Taimanov variation. Not long after, an exchange happened quickly with d4 takes, knight d4 takes back. Magnus continued to offer a knight trade with knight c6, but Judit declined and played knight to c3, while Magnus advanced a6. The game continued as Judit played bishop to e3 and queen to d2, preparing for castle. Magnus challenged the center with knight f6, and Judit reinforced the defense with f3, securing her pawn structure and preventing Magnus's knight from jumping to g4. Magnus positioned his bishop on e7, preparing to castle if necessary. Judit castled, and Magnus advances b5, preparing for a queenside attack. Not to be outdone, Judit also advances g4, preparing for a kingside attack, and Magnus started the war with knight exchange on d4. In this position, White would generally play g5 for an aggressive move, which would repel the knight with the plan to pave then the way to attack the king on the d-file, or could also play king b1 for a passive move. This will secure everything in case of an attack on queenside. But Judit Polgar, as the best female chess player, chose a move that no other grandmaster has ever done, e5. This is an interesting move, as it leaves g4 hanging because if f3 is moved, then rook h1 will be attacked. After thinking for a while, Magnus decided to take g4. Unknowingly, this was the beginning of his downfall. Judit paused to think and cleverly moved his rook to g1, a solid move because if Magnus took f3 in order to secure the knight while threatening rook d1, Judit could have immediately responded with bishop g2 or e2. If he insists on taking rook d1, black will lose rook a8 as well. But if he insists on a bishop exchange, queen g2 will be a fork that is difficult to avoid. So Magnus preferred to secure the knight to b6. At this point, Judit and Magnus both know that knight b6 is a bad move, which made Judit say,
"Side of the board on h6.
And Magnus respond with,
"Yeah, it's a really bad knight."
Judit Polgar activated his bishop to d3, and Magnus responded with bishop f8, without realizing that Judit was planning a deadly attack with his bishop. Can you see the plan? Judit began to execute her plan with bishop e4. In line with Judit's plan, Magnus Carlsen made a blunder with rook c8, which made Judit's plan run even smoother. Without a second thought, Judit launched her attack with bishop b6, which killed the queen's move and removed the king's protection from the queen. This attack made the audience cheer, realizing how brilliant this attack was.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! That was his selfmate!
Even Magnus was surprised by this attack.
Oh my god! That was his selfmate!
And in fact, White had already won 99% in this position. Because if Magnus takes bishop b6, then queen d7 is checkmate. But Magnus said,
Okay, I will play.
And proceeded to take bishop e4 and gave up his queen. A few moves later, Magnus finally gave up. Indeed, the game has been over since bishop b6. Even though this was just a casual game in a park, but it was still a rare moment when two legendary players played in one game.